Achieved with
CS2.
Counter-Strike 2 has had wingman mode added and options to toggle what happens when you hold secondary fire down, new vertigo and overpass map, but most importantly, the new water in this new version of Overpass looks beautiful. And also, I pointed out in the previews for this game that these tree models were so last year, which Valve took to heart and so have updated them with these new versions instead. I mean, their trunks are equally hideous, but their leaves look nice. They've also enhanced this hedge that splits the map in two. You can see CS2's new optimization in action if you peer through gaps in this hedge, as most of what's on the other side won't be rendered. But yeah, back to the water. Somebody at Valve has recently taken a trip to the sewage factory, because unlike in the previews, the water here now has sludgy shit all over the surface. It's quite possibly the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. There's even an oily layer on the surface, giving everything a rainbow sheen. I couldn't have asked for anything more. They've done to CS2's sewage what Half-Life Alyx did to its alcohol, by adding layer upon layer upon layer to the effect until it looks so good you can almost taste it. But why stop there? Don't just stare at it, touch it. Run about in it. Really go to town in this stuff. Shoot the poo and it disappears before reforming on the surface again moments later. And in the fountain here, there are a few different effects like water caustics, which is still somehow displayed on the water's surface. And you can also see crinkly micro-reflections, as if the water's been cling filmed. If you ask me, this was done to obscure the low-resolution nature of the reflections themselves. And the water itself looks different and cleaner. While there's no sludgy shit in it, yet, there is debris floating on the surface that appears to splosh out of the way if you shoot at it, just like it does in real life. Here's a bunch of people stood in fecal matter. Here they are, running back and forth through the stuff. Look at how their legs, sometimes, break holes in the surface foam. I don't know if I've ever seen it done in a game with this much precision before. Also notice how their shadows cast over the solid regions, but not on the clear bits. It's just a shame the solid bits of sewage don't cast shadows on the ground beneath them. The sun's reflections sparkle off the surface almost aggressively, especially off this muddy stuff. Unfortunately, the cutoff between wet and dry materials is too abrupt. Valve, please fix. But the water itself looks satisfyingly wet, and it generally succeeds in being reflective enough to look like it's reflecting stuff, whilst still being murky and ripply enough to not reveal their cube maps. You can see what I mean in Connector, where the cube mapped reflections don't make any sense if you look at them, failing to match up with the pipes, the walls, anything, really. So let's return to this water again. This water effect is, believe it or not, completely flat. Any 3D ripples are but an illusion, probably using the same parallax tricks as the 3D looking bullet holes do in this game. However they're doing it, it's really effective. Let's talk about the ripples some more. So of course, characters running through the water cause ripples around their legs. And your bullets cast 3D looking ripples, and then lots of secondary ones as the droplets thrown up from the first hit the surface again. God, it's wonderful. Jumping in and out of the water whips up a foam, and little bubbles which dash about on the surface before popping. Shotguns are especially effective at conjuring up the foam effect, and I love how it isn't in any hurry to disappear again. Why do other games not bother with all these lovely little effects? How has Valve achieved all this using methods that won't slow your PC down? Apart from firing the shotgun into the water at point blank, that's enough to bring even my GeForce 4090 to its knees. Grenades don't slow it down though, yet they cause complete chaos, with foam sloshing about, large bubbles later rising to the surface, and stuff that was floating in the water takes ages to reappear again, fearful that there might be a second explosion. Even the reflections are disrupted by this effect. Notice how the sun's fine sparkles are split into hundreds of smaller ones by the shot, until they eventually reform into their brighter former selves again. The grenade's disruption takes upwards of 7 seconds before the foamy distortion clears again. And in a source engine first, this water supports extremely subtle screen space reflections. If I get my face right down into the sewage like this, you're in for a treat, as you can stare at the reflections of these metal bars, and yet they'll disappear as the bars pass off the top of the screen. But when they're within the screen space, they reflect. This is how player reflections are done too, so colour me impressed with these reflections. They're using a bunch of terrible methods, but they're done subtly enough to not show their weaknesses. And there are enough different layers interacting with one another to make it look awesome. And by not reflecting players when they're not visible on screen, they've managed to avoid exploits involving character reflections showing up before the players can be seen. But it's not perfect. Smoke grenades touch the surface, but because this 2D water looks 3D, there's still a visible gap between the smoke and the water. But I don't think there's any playable position in the map where this will be a problem. What will be a problem is that players' reflections show up in the reflections, while the smoke grenades do not, meaning that you can see people hidden in a smoke grenade. Valve, please fix. And there's a fecal face just here. There's also some sort of pixelated appearance to the ground beneath the water, but it's most noticeable when your face is right into the water, and it's barely noticeable in standard play unless you're really looking for it. In conclusion, This is a very solid effort from Valve, who haven't let this sewage go to waste. They've really made it look like crap. Now please, add it to Half-Life Alyx so I can enter VR and literally stick my face in it.
What is that?